So we've just covered all the thoughts and feelings that arise as related to stress. And so now it's time for us to move into the habitual patterns that keep us living less than an easy, free-flowing life. And the first topic is one that is near and dear to my heart. I was raised with a world-class worrier. Anybody else? And I'll tell you, I actually used to think that my mother would win the championship. And the reason I thought that is because when we would go through the bad neighborhoods, she would tell me, don't look at that person, you never know who's going to pull out a gun and shoot you. Right? But I had a client come in and tell me a story the other day that topped my mother's story. Her mother had all the kids duck when they went through those neighborhoods. Oh my God, right? So, our mothers, and I really don't fault them because I know that my mother loved me. And I know that my mother had worry and love completely fused. She couldn't separate them. If you love somebody, you worry about them. And so that was the way that she expressed her love. But, I've learned a few things about worry since then as an adult. And I've spent a lot of years trying to break through this worry habit because I certainly recognized it didn't help me. So I want to talk about some of the things that I see as aspects of worrying and how worry contributes to stress. And then I want to give you some really cool tips for breaking the worry habit. Anybody like to have some cool tips for breaking the worry habit? Great. All right, I'm going to put some of this up on the board so you can follow both visually and auditory. And so the first thing that I have noticed about worry, and you might notice it as well, is that when we're worrying, we're not necessarily holding in mind our highest good. So everybody just take a moment to think about something that you have been worrying about. Whether it's been a lifetime of worrying about that thing or whether it's just one thing that you've been worrying about. I'm guessing that the pictures come to mind are not of pretty fields of flowers, but more like car accidents, getting fired, and all the things that we don't want to have happen. So the first thing that we're doing is we're holding in mind what we don't want. So if any of you have done, visualization, goals kind of work, they tell us if you want something to happen, create a picture of it. So when you're worrying, you're creating a picture. And when you create that picture, you're increasing the likelihood that it's going to happen. Not that sane, right? But we're all doing it. Okay, the second thing that's happening, and this one might actually be surprising to hear, but when you're worrying, you're actually telling yourself that you're incompetent. And you may not be using those words. You may not be saying to yourself, you can't handle this, you're not capable of doing this. But all of the planning that we're doing, all the anticipating, what's going to happen, how am I going to handle it, is actually creating this, kind of loop back within our systems, within our bodies, within our psyches, that says, well, when that shows up, you're going to be a mess. You're not going to be able to do it. When the boss tells you did a lousy job, you're going to fall apart and you're going to turn into a blithering idiot. Now, the truth is that most of us are very, very competent. I mean, we got good days, we got bad days, but as a general rule, we tend to handle most of what life gives us. But instead, with our worrying, we're telling ourselves we're not competent. And here's the deal. I don't like it when other people tell me I'm not competent. Do you? So why would you tell yourself you're not competent? So stop it. Sometimes it can be that easy. Just as you start to notice, oh my God, here I am telling myself I'm not competent again. We can just stop. Okay, the third thing, and this is, where all of my background in the body work comes in and where I feel most, quite passionate, is we are wreaking havoc in our bodies when we worry. So the first thing that starts to happen when we worry is we actually start to just tense up. And in that, when we're tensing externally, we're also starting to kind of contract internally. So our stomach starts to hurt, or our breathing gets really shallow and shaky, and everything is kind of going amiss. But what's also happening while we're doing all of this in the body is the body now thinks that there's a real threat. The body thinks that there's a tiger about to attack us and eat us. So now the body's going to do what the body brilliantly knows what to do. It's going to start releasing cortisol, the stress hormone. Because if you're going to get eaten by a tiger, you need a lot of cortisol. But in our lives, we don't need so much cortisol. What too much cortisol does is it creates inflammation in the body. It makes the autoimmune system go all crazy dysfunctional, and it creates all kinds of, what's the word I want? It tries to get us to do other things that we're not supposed to be doing in the moment. So we start eating, we don't sleep well, and we create these other strategies to handle all of this excess cortisol. So bodies are a mess, minds are a mess, and yet most of us that worry don't stop worrying. And there are two things that actually keep us in this whole worry pattern. And one of them is all the aversion to it. So this is all the part of us that says, stop worrying, don't worry. And you may have heard the expression, what you resist persists. And yet when we're worrying, it's, simultaneously worry, don't worry, they come together. And that kind of puts us on a hamster wheel. So that's one of the tips I'm going to give you around that in just a minute. And then the other thing that keeps us stuck in the whole worry cycle is attachment to worrying. And again, most people will say, well, I don't, feel attached to worry. I don't really want to worry. But we use worry for so many things. We use worry to express love, as my mother did. We use worry to control and manipulate. We use worry, and this is really the craziest of all, we use worry to feel safe. Who feels safe when they're worrying? But we have this crazy belief that if we stop worrying, we're not going to be safe in the world. It is crazy. But we all do it. You're not alone. If you think you're alone, you're not. All right. So how do we break through the cycle? And I will tell you that I have, really been speaking about worrying for a very long time. And all the speaking about worrying didn't help me let go of it. So I'm going to tell you some other ways that have helped me let go of worrying. So the first thing is around that whole piece of resistance. So we want to start taking out that piece of the formula. We want to stop resisting the experience of worrying. So the next time you find yourself worrying, get conscious and do it full-hearted. Go for it. So my suggestion is you throw yourself a little worry party. And I would invite all the people that taught you how to worry. I mean, they should be there, right? I would invite all the people that you worry about, the things you worry about, and any other parts of your psyche that need to be there. And then I would go crazy. So, like for instance, if you're afraid that you're going to get fired, I want you to go ahead and imagine I messed up this project. My boss is going to be so mad. She is going to let me have it, and then she's going to fire me. And once she fires me, then I am going to be out on the street. Nobody is going to want me because they will have checked with my boss, and she will have told them that I am such a mess that why would anybody hire me? And then I will be homeless. And now once I'm homeless, I'm not going to be able to eat healthy. I'm going to have to eat that crap food that makes you sick and puts you in the hospital. And then I'm going to die a slow and painful death. So you get the picture. You make the worry go so crazy that even you notice how crazy it is. Okay, the next thing I suggest that you do, and this one's a quickie and easy, I want you to start letting go of that picture. So we already all decided that when we're worrying, we're holding on to what we don't want. We're holding on to a negative picture. And for me, the picture I used to hold on to was snakes. I would go out walking in Castle Pines where I was told that there were snakes, and I would worry that the snakes were going to get my dog. And in fact, one of my dogs one time ran off and I couldn't find him, and I was sure that he was stuck in the bushes, dead by a rattlesnake bite. But then I learned this technique, Stoner method in fact, about letting go. And I just said to myself, I would just say to myself, could you let go of wanting to see snakes before I went walking? Now, my conscious mind and your conscious mind is going to say, well, I don't want to see snakes, or I don't want to get fired, or I don't want bad things to happen. But it doesn't matter. And in fact, you can say to your conscious mind, well, if you don't want those things, it'll be really easy for you to let go. But when you say to yourself, can I let go of wanting that to happen, your body relaxes. And that changes the whole system. So that's a very easy intervention. The third one is to start changing those messages. And we talked about this a little bit. Tell yourself that you're capable. So this is where you get to become your own biggest cheerleader. So if I get fired, I'll handle it. And it's funny, I had a client again this week who was so afraid to go into work every day. She's like all riled up and she's afraid she's going to get fired. And I said to her, well, Kathy, you just told me that you actually want to get fired. And yet, you know, she's like, I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get fired. It's like, well, that'd be the greatest thing in the world. So why are you worrying about it? So like that's another piece of it. Half the time we're worrying about things happening because we don't think that they should happen, even if we want them to happen. But the other piece back to this is when you start telling yourself, I'll handle it when it shows up, you first of all remind yourself that you are capable. And you become your own biggest cheerleader. That creates a kinder, nicer world to be in for yourself and everybody around you. Okay, and my final point is back to the body. So by the way, this is a sidetrack. The one relationship you're going to have from the day you're born until the day you die is this body. The one you are in, not my body. You're going to have that one relationship guaranteed from every single breath. Don't you think it's worth taking a little bit better care of than you usually do? But back to worry and stress in the body. So again, what happens when we're worrying, the mind starts to take over in general. It's kind of starts going down its own little track of, blah, 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 blah. And the best way to get off the track of the mind chatter is to come back and see what's here right now. So when you're worrying, what you're going to notice right here, right now, is probably going to be some tension in the belly, maybe some tightness in the throat, maybe this kind of feeling. And whatever it is that you're noticing, if you simply bring your awareness into that, if you bring into the chest, into the belly, you start breathing, you start opening, what you'll find is there's a little bit more space for you. And as your body starts to settle, starts to relax, your mind will follow. So I just want to close on that point and say that often, we think that the body is just really at the mercy of the mind. But the mind is often at the mercy of the body. And the body can so help inform and direct and change our lives. Simple little shifts in posture and awareness and opening change everything. So I'd love to see all of you come back next time and tell me about how much more aware you are of your body and how much less you're worrying. Thank you.